Mataconda77 very generously gave me a year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Go-Shintai of Life's Origin versus Lightpaws, Marwyn and Muldrotha the Gravetide. Got an Enchantress, a little bit of Ramping Bloom Tender, as well as a Shrine, so yeah, keep that. Not great, not bad. And we are first in the turn order, so no reason not to go for a Triome here. Have to go for double green because we've got a couple of double green cards in hand, including an Eidolon of Blossoms now. Llanowar Elves for the elf player. And then it's just round to our turn again. We get into a Sol Ring, so I can go for... Let's make sure this is definitely green. Yes, we can go for a Sol Ring into the Bloom Tender. Bloom Tender being the one that taps for a colour per colour between permanents we control. So in a 5-colour deck, hopefully we'll generate a lot of mana for us, although it is a delicate mana dork, so not sure how long this thing's going to last. Oh, and I actually didn't realise that there is a Yavimaya in play as well, so we all control forests either way. A couple of islands being held up by Muldrotha. The green is fixed over here as well though, so just looking for black. And then we see Lightpaws, Emperor's Voice. I've been looking forward to building this one myself. I actually just built Galia in paper as an Aura's commander, so be intrigued to see what a mono white version would do here. And then we see Teferi's Protection this time, so let's... I don't think it matters, we've got the double green. If we go Verduran Enchantress, we can draw a card from the Eidolon of Blossoms being cast as well as it entering, so yeah, it's a better use of our mana to go for the Eidolon of Blossoms here, but I think I'll go for the Enchantress for the sake of drawing more cards. I suppose we could actually go for the Shrine, and then this would tap for 2, and we could get down the Enchantress down after that. Yeah, that's a good use of our mana. We do miss out on a card draw doing this, but it might tempt counter magic out of the Muldrotha player's hand. They decide to pass pretty quickly there. So now we can tap down the Bloom Tender for 2, one from the land of course, and that is a Verduran Enchantress for us. Noteworthy that Marwyn didn't play into the open blue mana. Can't pay for this, it does trigger at the end step. These new shrines from the newest Kamigawa set are really, really good. They create a 1/1 spirit per shrine we control if we pay just 1 generic mana, so that could be a hell of a lot within the next few turns. A Fleshbag Marauder. Yeah, I think, unfortunately, already seen the back of the Bloom Tender here. Would have been good to see another turn with this thing, because then we could have got Eidolon of Blossoms into play and held up the protection, but yeah, not going to happen apparently. Seen lots of non-basics here. A Yavimaya Hollow, and then there is a Castle Garenbrig as well. And out comes Marwyn the Nurturer. And now the mono white player not doing much either, outside of waiting to get the commander back into play, so I think we'll draw a couple of cards here, go for the Eidolon of Blossoms, and we'll just have to hope that we don't see a board wipe, I think. Now seeing an Overgrowth, and we've got Honden of Infinite Rage as well. This one is going to deal damage to any target equal to the shrines we control during the upkeep. So we'll just go for another Triome with the Windswept Teeth and pass, I think. I'll swing in with the Shintai, and we'll go in at the Muldrotha player, show our opponents that we are focused on the Muldrotha player. And we'll pay 1 into the Shintai as well, start getting some of these shrines into play. Now we see a Seal of Doom. So are you worried about the Enchantresses, the Shrines, or the Elves? Sure, time will tell on that one. Haven't actually seen these Spirit tokens yet, so that is what they look like apparently. A Steel Leaf Champion. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, a 5/4, so pretty good against us. Obviously a plus counter going on the Marwyn as well. Putting them into a Wirewood Symbiote. So could tap down the Marwyn here and then bounce the Steel Leaf Champion, and then replay the Steel Leaf Champion straight away just for the sake of putting a counter on the Marwyn. But decided to swing in with Marwyn instead towards the white player. Not sure what they've got against the white player, they haven't actually done anything yet. I'd be concentrating on Muldrotha myself, not letting them get into the late game over there, but obviously not wanting the Seal of Doom to be pointed over here, I think. A War Room from the white player. And just recasting the Lightpaws again. So we'll sacrifice the Windswept Teeth and get out a Triome, because I very much don't like drawing into the tap lands in the late game. Don't have double black, so we'll go for that one. Okay, going after the Go-Shintai of Shared Purpose. with the Seal of Doom, so that will be destroyed here. So, yeah, I was wondering if we go for the Honden, we could have gone for the Honden, paid into this, and gone for Teferi's Protection if we needed to, but as it stands now that we've lost the Shintai, okay, another Enchantress in Sithis, probably hold on to that for as long as I can. As it stands now, we will play a land, and I think it's our commander, and hold up Teferi's Protection. And then we get Summoning Sickness away from our commander, and we can get this back out if we want to. So we draw a card from the Verduran Enchantress, and then get a creature from the Shintai of Life's Origin. Eidolon of Blossoms draws us a card from the commander entering as well. Okay, so we've dug for quite a bit of ramp here. Might have to take a turn off at some point and get some of this ramp into play. But yeah, we've got pretty much everything we need in our hand at the moment. Drew into Sanctum of Calm Waters as well, speaking of card draw. Might save that until after a board wipe. But we can go for Wild Growth here, so let's go Wild Growth onto the Plateau. That will get some ramp out of our hand as well as draw us some cards. We've dug a few cards in to get to our next land, which is good. And getting into all the enchantment-based ramp. So I'll be true to my word and start going in at the Muldrotha player. I'm just hoping that the Elf player doesn't go easy on Muldrotha to keep the Sultai player's attention on us. That might be what the plan is over there. And then we're getting into too much card draw to go for the Sanctum. Yeah, we've got the Sithis as well, so I'm just going to discard the Sanctum here. Like I said before, we can reanimate it with our commander if we want to. Well, apparently not. There goes the reanimator, Ashiok Dream Render. And I don't think we can necessarily rely on the Elf player to go in and take out Ashiok either. What else did they get from us? Oh, there's some good cards. Doomweight Giant. The World Tree. Serra's Sanctum. Yeah, really good. And they got Sanctum of Tranquil Light as well. So I might regret getting rid of that Sanctum of Calm Waters if we're not going to be able to rely on the Enchantresses for getting into card draw. Dryad Arbor is the land for turn for the Elf player. A Jaraga Warcaller, that is kicked 2 times, so we'll get 2+ counters on it and give the other elves +2/+2. Which means there is a 7/6 Steel Leaf Champion that we can't block now. Yeah, I had a feeling that that was going to come in towards us, so Steel Leaf Champion is going to deal a hefty 7 points of damage to us. Have to try and draw ourselves into Song of the Dryads or something like that, I think. Be very intrigued to see what the white player does, because I don't know that Muldrotha's getting any particular respect here. And there is a Serra's Sanctum, taps for a green at the moment. No enchantments in play for that player. Yeah, it's for each enchantment you control. So that's Pearl Medallion, makes white spells cost 1 less. Followed by a 1-mana Spirit Mantle. And then they can search for a 1-mana Aura. Failing to do that, seemingly, which is very curious. If that's a misclick, it might be relevant to this turn, because this could have tapped for 2 mana, which means they're a mana shy now of what they might have wanted to do. So going for an Angelic Gift, we'll draw them a card and give them flying on their creature. Has protection from creatures now anyway, so pretty much just a cantrip ability. Again, they can go for a 1-mana Aura. There is Ethereal Armor that gives +1/+1 per enchantment you control. That's a 1-mana Aura, so I'd be surprised if they don't have that in the deck. Could have gone for it by now. And it is Light of Promise. Whenever you gain life, put that many plus counters on this creature. No life gain yet, as far as I can tell. So the commander, only a 3/3 surprisingly. And that goes in at the Ashiok, as it should. Okay, an Overgrown Tomb. I think we go straight in for the Gift of Paradise. That can go on the Underground Sea. Don't want to plant all of our auras onto one land, because a Strip Mine will give us a bad time with that. Priority held up by the Muldrotha player, so might be seeing counter magic over here. Getting to another Enchantress is really good, so we've got our card draw set even after a board wipe. Gain 3 life from the Gift of Paradise, as well as draw another card from the Eidolon of Blossoms. And there we've got our Reanimator as well. As long as we don't see any more Graveyard Hate, that should see as well. So we can go for Fertile Ground here onto a Triome or onto a Shock. So let's Shock in the Breeding Pool. Then we can go Fertile Ground onto the Breeding Pool. We've now got Sanctum of All and a Sanctum Weaver. Tap this down for Honden mana and then We can definitely, yes, 2 mana of any one colour, so we can definitely still hold up the Teferi's Protection. So let's go for the Honden. Draws us another card, makes another token with the Shintai. Okay, and then we've got Eerie Ultimatum for some more reanimation shenanigans. Really could do with an unlimited hand size here, I think. But I think we go in at the Muldrotha player continuously, so let's finish off the Ashiok and deal some more damage to that player. I think the elf player is going to keep wailing on us continuously regardless. So I managed to take down the Ashiok player. Muldrotha goes down to 28. And we're going to have to discard 4 cards here, 2 of which can be lands, I think. So let's get rid of the Overgrowth, a couple of lands, and... yeah, we're going to... The Open the Vaults reanimates all artifacts and enchantments, so let's just keep the Eerie Ultimatum. Our opponents might think that we're discarding that because we don't have anything decent in our graveyards now. But if Muldrotha is going to go on the self-mill plan, which it typically does, then don't necessarily want to reanimate any of their stuff. It could help the Enchantress player over here as well, so Eerie Ultimatum is much better for us. Also reanimates the lands and stuff. Okay, that is an Eldest Reborn. So we can sacrifice the Spirit token and it won't really hurt us particularly. I think this exiles graveyards as well though, doesn't it? Oh no, it reanimates a creature or planeswalker from a graveyard. So have to be careful of that. Dryad Arbor went down over here. The mono white player obviously being forced to sacrifice the commander, which is the difficult thing with edict effects. We are seeing why the control player is the one to aim for. They are slowly making it so that they'll get to the late game. Not to say that the elves and myself aren't to worry about, but it gets more and more difficult to take out a control player the longer you leave them in play. 5 mana, the Marwyn is tapping 4 now. And there we see a Crater Hoof Behemoth, so this will be +5/+5 on all their creatures. So we'll see if they continue to concentrate on us. Might be glad of the Teferi's Protection here. They are down to 3 cards in hand, haven't been dealt any damage yet. Currently have 36 trample damage in play. Then curiously going for untapping the Marwyn, so maybe just doing this for the extra mana, and maybe not wanting to swing in at all. That's Elvish Archdruid, an Anthem effect, and taps per elf you control. And then bringing in the Steel Leaf Champion again, which will now have Summoning Sickness. And then a Heedless one, so really playing into a board wipe here. Down to 1 card. Okay, seems to be swinging at least some of them in at Muldrotha. 10 going in at the white player. I would think an elf player would want to concentrate on knocking one player out at a time, even if it's us. But spreading the damage seemingly, wanting to try and play fair maybe. Sigarda's Aid now will allow the Light Paws to play at instant speed with regards to auras at least. And then going War Room, drawing a card. Unfortunately haven't seen too much from Light Paws thanks to the control from the Muldrotha. And as I calculate it, we cannot very well deal with the Muldrotha player. I think we leave them at 1 life if we go Honden and tap out all of our attackers into them. Anyway, we will point the Honden at the Muldrotha player. So they go down to 8, and then we've got 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, yes. Leaving them at 1, unfortunately. Get into a land. So tap those lands down. Let's go Sanctum of All. We will have 1 left floating. Draw some extra cards from our Enchantresses. Surprised we haven't seen a board wipe yet. You do just have some games where you don't manage to get into board wipes, which is particularly good for a creature-based player. So the Shintai will give us another token, and it's another card draw. Alright, Song of the Dryads. Yeah, could be useful. Preferably want to get into a board wipe. If we can go for the Mardu Ultimatum that we've got in the deck, then that will wipe out the elf player and probably knock them out of the game with only 1 card in hand. I haven't seen too many shrines. We've got them all in the deck, but yeah, we've got 1 mana floating, so let's go for Sanctum Weaver as well. Don't have any haste, but that can hopefully get us into a lot of mana next turn. Alright, and lots of lands, some of which are tap lands. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe the Sol Ring gets taken out, so it might be a good idea to shock in a Sacred Foundry, play it safe. So I will do that. And then I'm continuing to barrel in towards Muldrotha. Maybe the elf player will finish them off. That's if Muldrotha doesn't go for a board wipe. Shocking in the land actually allows us to hold up Heroic Intervention as well, although I don't see why we'd need to have both Teferi's Protection and Heroic Intervention. Maybe the protection gets countered. So down to 1 they go, and we will pass at that. Just discarding some lands to hand size. Each player discarding a card here. We'll get rid of the Yavimaya. I think it's going to be pretty easy for us to draw into lands every turn as the board stands. Going to see the last card in the elf player's hand as well, so they will be in top deck mode now. So we see a Lignify, that's relevant. Could have gone onto our commander, potentially should have done that maybe. That was a Helm of the Host, or Helm of the Gods even, being discarded by Light Paws. One of the only equipment you probably see in that deck. Now a Burnished Heart as a chump blocker, not going to do much else for Muldrotha. It's noteworthy that we do have 6 shrines in play for the Sanctum of All as well, so the shrines are going to trigger an additional time. So attacks are Marwyn, 9 commander damage to the mono white player, 4 from Jiraga to us, 5 from Greathoof to us, 4 from Elvish Archdruid to Light Paws, leaving Muldrotha in the game for some reason is really weird, and then 8 damage to us from Steel Leaf Champion. So I don't see the green players really going to interfere with Teferi's Protection. The blue player could. Let's try Teferi's Protection. Alright, that's really good, so we can just zone out here. The elf player has nearly tapped out. That is an 8-8 in the way. And the great thing is that if the mono white player wants to save himself from the elves, he's going to have to wipe the board here, and board wipes aren't going to affect us as it stands now, so we might dictate what Light Paws does. A Catilda, Dawnheart Martyr, is a decent form of life gain if they can actually get enchantments into play. And on there goes a Hyena Umbra. Yeah, so they do have 1 mana auras. I don't know why they didn't put that on their commander. I mean, they had to sacrifice it previously, so that would have not helped them with the totem armor. If you have to sacrifice it, it dodges totem armor. But still, surprised that they didn't put that on there earlier. And this one is Battle Mastery, puts double strike on the enchanted creature. So at the moment, seeing Catilda as a double strike, flying lifelink pro vampires creature, 5/5. So we've got the Hondens doubling up, so how much damage is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. So we go wide on the Muldrotha player, we would assume. So why not go after the white player before the life gain gets too tricky for us? Okay, and the white player just scoop into that. Absolutely should not do that because we've got a Honden trigger here free now, so well, I'll do the honest thing and I'll go after the elf player. I can't target anyone that isn't here. But yeah, mono white player totally screwing his opponents there. Or potentially screwing his opponents. We might have the elf player regardless. So with Sanctum of All, we are going to search our library. And you'd think we'd go for 1. I'm thinking of Sanctum of Stone Fangs here. Because this triggers at pre-combat main phase. Each opponent loses X, we gain X, where X is the shrines we control. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. Helps us against the elves and takes them out at the same time. That triggers the Eidolon of Blossoms and the Shintai. Shintai obviously gives us more tokens, which makes the shrines even more powerful, so really starting to see just how strong the shrines have become with this new commander. So now we've got a board wipe, first one that we've seen, Imprisoned in the Moon as well. Yeah, and then we've got to draw our card for the turn. That is a 3-visit, Sanctum of Stone Fangs will trigger twice, it goes on each opponent, so that will take care of Muldrotha. And the elf player goes plummeting down to 13. So why don't we go Utopia Sprawl onto the Savannah, see if we can get into means of helping us deal with the elf player. And there we see a Sanctum of Shattered Heights we've drawn into. Discard a land card or a shrine, and it deals X damage to a target creature or planeswalker, where X is the number of shrines you control. So we could try and get into some lands here. And already getting into one in Arid Mesa from the Enchantress. Finding ourselves a Shark Typhoon as well. There is Go-Shintai of Ancient Wars. Beginning of your upkeep, you can pay 1, deals X damage to a target player or planeswalker, where X is the shrines you control, so that's yet another one for us. The Sphere of Safety. Sphere of Safety is really good against elves as well, especially if we can take mana away from them, so I've got a few means of dealing with our opponent here. Let's go for a bunch of white mana, get that Sphere of Safety into play. I actually think it's a good idea to go for Sithis Harvest's Hand here, because we want to be pretty much guaranteeing that we get into lands just in case we need to go for a bunch of damage with this Shintai that we're about to play. So we'll do that now. Gain a life and draw from the Sithis now as well. Making more Sanctum tokens or Shrine tokens with the commander. We'll deal damage to their commander and discard a land to do it. Get rid of the Elvish Archdruid as well, because we're really just trying to hurt their mana at this point, because that will make it almost impossible for them to get through the Sphere of Safety. They haven't bounced anything with the Wirewood Symbiote, which is noteworthy. Maybe they're just humouring us here. But we'll get rid of their unblockable creature as well. Discard the Field of the Dead, one of the only colourless lands in the deck. Wolfwillow Haven onto the Savannah. I think we've got our opponent here. I'm not trying to disrespect their time at all. Just want to make doubly sure that we do have it. And we'll land ourselves a Shark Typhoon as well. Drawn into some more stuff here, so we'll go for the Green Shrine. That is Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest. Adds a bunch of mana. So then we get a Shark token, which will be a 3/3 this time. Draw some more cards, down to 32 in the library, so we need to be careful. And finally getting into the Entomb, that is for the Omniscience. We can put Omniscience in the bin and then reanimate it with this, with our commander, and then just go crazy from there. But we'll play the last spell here and hold up the Heroic Intervention, and then we'll go through to the end step. That's Go-Shintai of Lost Wisdom. So the Shintai of Lost Wisdom can go on the stack first, so that the Go-Shintai of Ancient Wars can trigger first, or resolve first I should say. So we do have to pay for that, and that puts that trigger on the stack. Paid for one of them. Okay, and one was enough. They went down from 13 to -8, so yeah. Enchantress shenanigans along with Go-Shintai and the shrines is pretty damn good apparently. I don't think Muldrotha was really allowed to get into it, which was obviously by design on my part. And the Muldrotha player kept the white player out of it, so a little bit of a one-sided game, but the elves could just as easily have gotten rid of us, so yeah, pretty good game I think. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one as well. Be sure to leave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you did. Going to be concentrating on more Kamigawa Neon Dynasty decks as the days and nights progress. So let me know what you all thought of it. Deck list is in the description as ever. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.